and this will be sent out sometime tomorrow. So just keep an eye out for that recording. Attached to that recording is a questionnaire. We just ask that you do please fill out the questionnaire. But if you want to go back and reference anything that's covered tonight during the presentation, please feel free to do so. The chat is open, so if you do have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. You can post those in the chat throughout the presentation, or at the end we will have a designated Q&A. So if you do want to take yourself off mute, you can certainly do that. But throughout the presentation, please feel free to post those questions in the chat. And then from here, what I'm going to do, I will pass it over to Jody. Jody, are you ready to roll?
Ready.
Awesome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, RJ. Good evening, everyone. Hello. My name is Jody Rao. I am the Pipeline Partnership Liaison with the Illinois Tollway. So thank you so much for taking the time to connect today to learn more about the careers available and future opportunities here at the agency. Just a little bit about me. I've been with the agency about 2 years, a little over 2 years. I work with the team that develops and designs the internship program for the Tollway. And this summer we've got 18 interns. It's a 10-week program. We do hope to offer it every summer. Applications open in March, and so we'll definitely look to have that for next year, for next summer. It's a 10-week program. Many different majors involved in that program, so would love to stay in touch. I did send my email in the chat as well as my LinkedIn, and you can feel free to contact me at either of those to stay connected. So as RJ had mentioned, the chat is open for any questions. I want to make this as informal as possible. If you have questions immediately, feel free to post them, and then RJ will let me know there's a question and we can address it from there. But I do have today just a couple of slides, really just because it provides the most kind of content for our typical careers presentation, and it helps you kind of think about where you might see yourself while showing the slides with the different departments at the Tollway, and then definitely want to open it up for questions after that. So again, the meat of this will be a PowerPoint slide, just a couple of them, and then I'll share a few materials in PDF, and then we'd love to open it up to Q&A. So we'll go ahead and get started here with the slides. All right, so hopefully you can all see that.
Yes.
Okay, great. I was just going to ask. Thank you. So yes, again, I'm very excited to present to you information today about the Illinois Tollway, specifically career opportunities. The Tollway is headquartered in Downers Grove, and so it's basically right at the Ogden Avenue and 355 and kind of in that 88 area. And most of the positions are housed there. So that will be, our team is about just under 1,200, and the space there encompasses probably about 600, 800. So a lot of the team is going to be the roadway team. So they have maintenance sites all across the system. But at the headquarters in Downers Grove, that's where most of the positions in administration, which are human resources roles, IT positions, finance, accounting roles typically are there as well, and communications, marketing. So we'll kind of cover a little bit more about the departments. But there is some of the individuals are kind of working in this hybrid remote modality right now, and that is expected to continue. And so it just really depends on your department, on the style and work environment. So I'm happy to answer questions about that individually as we kind of go through the different areas. But let me give you a little bit more background here about the organization. So the Tollway does operate in 12 different counties. It's part of the entire dynamic network, really, of Northern Illinois, connecting regional transit, freight, railways, inland ports, 3 different international airports, It is one of the nation's largest interstate systems, and I think only New York and California have more interstate route and mileage. And then technically those are huge states, right? 7 million and kind of 25 million. I think the numbers are more residents than Illinois. So there's a lot of folks on the roads here. So there's 5 toll roads, and they're located in 12 different counties, as I mentioned, 294-mile system. And the tollway sees 1.5 million vehicles every day. All right. So here's kind of the meat, right, of where you might see yourself and as far as a career opportunity with the agency. And so, again, my role, just to back up a little bit, my role stemmed in about 2 years ago, right? When I first started, I'm the first person to hold this position. So I'm excited to kind of see, the outreach that we've been able to do as part of me and the team that I work within, which is talent acquisition. Because this slide is really a surprise to a lot of folks and probably many of you on today's session, which is there are actually 17 different departments at the agency. So when I do a lot of recruitment fairs and job fairs, I get a few who kind of just stroll right by and say, oh, I don't really want to work at the toll booths. But then it's kind of like a re-education about, well, actually, there's so much more going on at the organization outside of operations, toll operations, which is one of the teams, so that's operations there. But each team is, focused on a different area and work project. So my team under talent acquisition and kind of the human resources aspect is found in administration. Business systems, that's going to be very heavily related to our data analytics on vehicles and account information, remote sensor data, kind of exactly how the information is captured and transferred from the transponder into the system. Communications, that's going to be our marketing team. So they are a lean, mean team of, I think, 8. And they do a lot of event support when we had, kind of ribbon cuttings or executive leadership events and conferences. You could definitely find them there and writing amazing blogs and articles about those. Our diversity and strategic development team. And so that's actually where it's any of the businesses who want to do business with the Tollway. That's kind of their focus area is the RFP process, educating organizations who want to do business with the Tollway on the process that is looked through for bids and our procurement team. So a lot of work going on in that team there. Of course, there's our engineering team, and those are the fabulous folks, usually at the project manager level, who are working with consulting firms who are working boots on the ground with those active construction sites. Of course, there's executive office and director. So the Tollway is governed by a 9-person appointed board of directors, as well as the executive director who manages day-to-day operations. Facilities and fleet team. So that's the individuals I mentioned, our roadway team. So folks who are on the roads, they're assisting stranded motorists. They're doing the salting of the toll roads. They're also doing the ground maintenance, mowing those lawns on the side of the toll roads, taking care of guardrail maintenance. And then there are also custodials, our headquarters in Downers Grove, custodials, auto mechanics, carpentry, all things facilities and fleet there. And then we have our finance team, which is different than procurement. So you'll see different roles there. For example, one example of this is like if your experience is financial advising and that lens or payroll, then definitely finance is where those positions lie. But if you're more on the client communications, vendor relations, where you're working with numbers, right, but more in an invoicing process way, that's going to be our procurement team. Then, of course, the Illinois State Police Troop 15 is all the individuals who patrol the toll roads. And then there's, of course, our IT department. There's actually 9 different chiefs in the IT department. So a lot of different work being done on cybersecurity, and of course our help desk side and all the user accounts information and software logins that go with that. There's an infrastructure team, app development or applications. So there's a lot more kind of in-depth and complex work being done in the IT sector. and that's really one that's becoming more efficient by the day. So that's been exciting to see the progression in that team. Internal audit, of course, with any agency, really having that checks and balances on policies and procedures. Same with that, our legal team for legal compliance. Office of Inspector General, again, related to ethical accountability of an agency. And then our operations team, so that's me, customer service, all things customer service. That's training development manager. That's going to be escalation associate. And that's also considered kind of our frontline team of customer service representatives. Planning is a great team too. They're going to be more environmental. They're doing community outreach and engagement. Legislative individuals as well. Procurement I already mentioned, so again, that's going to be individuals who are, when we're talking about, the Tollway needs to purchase, for example, 100 vehicles. And so let's look at different businesses who could supply that. So let's see what they're we're putting out a bid for it. So let's see all the businesses who submitted bid. Let's go through that. Let's go into some negotiations, and then let's get the invoice processed. So that's what the procurement team does in a nutshell. And then our security and safety team. So of course that's going to be at the physical offices in Downers Grove or at the maintenance sites, individuals who are working on kind of physical security of all employees and individuals on site at any Tollway premises. So again, 17 different departments, so much different work going on, just about under 1,200 people on the team, so a lot of work being done. All right, so just wanted to kind of focus on some core mission areas at the agency. And so there are some focus areas on safety, service, and sustainability. And those are kind of core focus areas at the Tollway. A few highlights include Public Works Association, Technical Innovation Awards, Excellence in Snow and Ice Control, and on the customer service side, the Illinois Tollway, again, as you saw in the earlier slide, serves 1.5 million vehicles, right, every year. So the customer service team really prioritizes that customer feedback and is fielding a lot of questions. Specifically, the team responds to about 2 million calls per year. So that's definitely a lot of problem solving and customer support that's being provided. And some individuals at the last couple of events have asked, what is how many are, cars or trucks? And so here is just a breakdown for you here if you're just curious about it. 86% passenger vehicles and 14% commercial. And then, of course, related to environmental sustainability, right? We all have to be kind of conscious about our footprint here. And so the Tollway always looks to minimize environmental impacts, right? So building of these ginormous roads or right-of-ways, takes land away, but how can we replace it or reuse materials, reducing waste? And so that's definitely top of mind, especially in the engineering and planning teams. Is there a question?
Jody, there was a question. So Marcus had a question. Is the Illinois Tollway considered a state government job?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so although the Tollway does not leverage state or federal tax funding, so again, the Tollway does not utilize state or federal tax funding, it is a state agency. It's just the funding source comes from customers funded. So those who use the toll roads pay for the toll roads. But yes, it is a state agency, so I am a state employee. All employees at the Tollway are state employees, so there's the pension eligibility, all the great benefits that come with being a state employee. Great question. And so so just back to the environmental component. I get really excited to hear about how my organization kind of works in making sure that we're leaving a good footprint on this earth. And so there's a lot of work. I've had firsthand insight into understanding it takes a lot of people to make sure that building the roads in the best way possible, involving different community group representation for voices to make sure it kind of meets their community's needs. working with environmental agencies to design and develop the right ways for these roads and bridges and repairs, environmental restoration, preservation plans. It's just really exciting stuff that goes into this. So I hope that excites you as well. And so absolutely, thinking of the tollways makeup and the diversity of the workforce. And so some recent highlights of the tollways commitment to diversity, including a development of strategic partnerships with agencies really focused on workforce diversity. So again, I've been with the agency in about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And so knowing some of the partners, and they're really focused in kind of building their community members. And so we do a lot of on-site job fairs. We've done mock interview workshops, and really just offered support to agencies that are providing opportunities to increase access for their individuals in their communities, especially from underserved and underrepresented communities. Also, the Tollways implemented unconscious bias training, and again, just really looking for any and all opportunities to increase access to communities, to let them know about the great opportunities available at the Tollway and being a great state agency. So the importance of building a strong culture, when you think about really any organization, that should be of concern to you, and you get to, identify, is this a place I want to work? What is the company's culture like? And so it's a Tollway. It's one of the components that I've been involved in, and it started, the LinkedIn Learning started probably about a year and a half ago. LinkedIn Learning is very leveraged for kind of training development, for skill improvement recommendations, and also just kind of for folks who want to build up their knowledge and repertoire as they work on projects. LinkedIn Learning has been a great tool that a lot of teams have been used. And then there's also a manager training program that's offered to help develop new managers. And then also it's custom training programs. So if you're looking to enhance your career in a certain direction, and there's future growth opportunities available, you and your manager work together to create a development plan, and that's all designed and supported by a whole team, which is called the professional learning team at the Tollway. So not a lot of organizations have a team that's dedicated to that. So that's why I really wanted to showcase that, especially that you're either recently graduated or you're going to be graduating soon. Learning development is a really important aspect of what a company can offer you. And so definitely wanted to highlight that today for you all.
Jody, there was one individual that did raise their hand. Brian, if you want to come off mute and ask your question, you can do that. I do see your hand raised, though.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Jotai, Howard. Appreciate y'all putting this on. So I had a couple of questions. I'm in cloud computing, and I know y'all have an IT department. Do y'all really, with cloud computing, it's about setting up architecture or networking online servers? And is this something y'all do there?
Yes. Yes, it's definitely cloud computing is part of the Tollways IT team, and really actually all the software is leveraged in that way. We are also just getting this new software that's just getting exposed to our teams. I can't remember the exact name. Oh, it's just escaping me. I'll have to get back to you on that. But it's definitely cloud computing. It's an enterprise environment as well. That's helpful for you as you think about an IT career area. All of the tools that I work through is through OneNote or OneDrive and SharePoint, Microsoft Office 365. And so all of our information is stored there. I leverage that all the time for all the work, especially in our talent acquisition team. We log in through a VPN that's kind of focused on making sure that all of our access is secured. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, there's 9 different chiefs that really focus on different IT areas. I'm getting to know a little bit more about what what each team does. I'm learning more every day, but there is a special talent acquisition member who's dedicated to recruitment for IT. And so if there are specific questions related to, like, does the Tollway use this particular software, I could definitely reach out to her to inquire. And we have also offered folks, especially those with heavy IT experience, you want to know the answers to those questions, right, as far as technical questions. And so I have linked up job seekers directly to my colleague, and she's welcoming of that, to have those more poignant questions about, here's what I've done at the last company in the IT role. Is this something that I could do at the Tollway and it would be valuable? And she could definitely field those types of questions.
Yeah, thank you. So, and also it's very similar to what Abel was asking us his question. These are all on-site jobs. These are 10-week jobs, but they're on-site in Illinois.
Oh, great question. So you do have to work at the Tollway. You do have to have state of Illinois residency. And then typically the IT position that's most in-house, like Monday to Friday, is going to be our help desk team, also called customer service operations. But like our infrastructure team, application, cybersecurity, those individuals tend to work more on the remote side. But you do have to live in the state, and then you do have to come into the office if you're needed at any point. So you do have to kind of live in and about, the areas of Downers Grove.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There was another one. Do employees have a defined benefit pension?
Ooh, it is a tiered pension plan. So it's tier 1, tier 2. So everybody who starts as a state agency at this point, it'll be tier 2, which is 10 years of service, and then you're pension eligible. And that's not just a Tollway policy, that's any state agency's policy. Ours is run through Central Management System, CMS. And so if you just look that up, State of Illinois CMS pension, you'll get all the information there on kind of how it's calculated. But you have to have 10 years of service if you've never worked at a state agency before. I started out my journey in 2008, I want to say. I did 4 years at a community college, actually. And then left and went into private sector, but then came back into this role and actually qualified for tier 1. So which means within 8 years, you'll be pension eligible. So definitely, think about that. If you have ever worked at a state agency, it'll kind of be credited from that point, whether you're tier 1 or tier 2. I don't know if that was helpful, but hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, good. I think there is a slide on benefits. I think that's, oh, perfect. Perfect timing for these questions. So the benefits include, on the health side, really one of the biggest benefits that I've heard from other employees that have been at different locations, companies have said that the healthcare cover starting day 1 is great, especially for them and their families. So other companies might be 30 days or 60 days, get that intermediate coverage, which is kind of expensive. But here it's health coverage starts day 1. State of Illinois retirement benefits plan. There's a tuition reimbursement information. So it might be on the low side if it's compared to corporate, but $5,250 annually is what it's at right now. Paid time off, of course, and that includes state and federal holidays. Another thing is for vacation time, you can actually accrue up to 2 years. So if you never took any vacation your first year, you'll have it roll over into your next year. And then it just kind of stays at the maximum of 2 years as you carry it over. So you can always, if you don't take any vacation the second year too, just know that second year, accrual will roll over to year 3, but you're not able to accrue anymore until you start using it. And then workplace wellness. So we're having some health stroke and health screenings that are coming up in the summers is usually when it is. It's tied in with the picnic. I think that's going to be the 19th. So we'll have the vendors there to offer that. Employee assistance program. So the Tollway does stand out a cut above the rest as far as EAP and mental health. So the Tollways offers not only free sessions for employees, but it's 10 free sessions for an employee's family members. So that's actually from the vendor directly the highest that they've seen from another company. So the Tollway really does invest in employees. So that's not just your dependent, right? That's going to be an aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, nephew. They also, the benefit extends to them for 10 free sessions, for mental health with the EAP vendor that's with the Tollway. And so a lot of other wellness savings offered here as well.
There was a question that came through the chat. So this individual had applied for an IT position not so long ago. They believe it was a technical operations position, but they haven't heard back yet. So they wanted to seek your advice as far as should they be calling to follow up or anything specific that they might be able to do to follow up on that position?
Great question. Yes. So that's, another great I guess, opportunity that we can connect today is that I'll be your go-to. So my role is to be that contact person for job seekers. So once you are selected to interview, then you kind of are supported by my colleague who's a talent acquisition specialist. So me being kind of what's called a pipeline partnership liaison, I'm going to be your frontline person for all job seekers. So by attending this session today, you have the right connection. That'll be me. So what I've done in the past is if a candidate has applied, they could reach out to me by email to check the status of their application. And then what I could do is take a look at it and see, is the position on hold or are they conducting interviews? And is the position closed? So I can let you know that information as well. So I don't know if you saw my email through the chat, but I'll definitely put it in the chat here as soon as we're done. So that way you can reach out to me by email. Just give me your name and then potentially what position, although I can look that up as well with your name. And then I'll be able to reply back to let you know the status of that particular position and where they're at in the hiring process. But don't give up after just one position. I am going to share with you a job interest card, which is available online. You could sign yourself up to receive automatic email alerts as soon as new IT jobs are posted, and just continue to put yourself in there because different teams are looking at your application. So if you apply to one position in IT, perhaps that's the infrastructure team that's going to look at your application, but then you apply to another position and then that's going to be maybe the help desk team that's looking at your application. So definitely continue to apply even though while you're waiting to hear back. That's a non-issue at all. All right. Okay, so that's it. So this is the job interest card. I feel like these questions are like perfectly targeted for these slides. So there's a 3-step process to sign up for what's called a job interest card. And so you go to the website, you click careers, and I could demo this for you as well. There's 70 categories though, so feel free to go through and click as many that match what you're interested in. But the great thing is you get emailed the next day. I think it's like 4 a.m. As soon as my team posts the job online, that next day you get an email that says new role posted with the Tollway if it matches any of the categories that you selected. And so we're really trying to push this out for job seekers to just stay connected with us, and just if you're passively looking even more than actively looking, this is a great way to do that. And then, here's my contact information. So I know that there was someone who mentioned, following up on a specific application. Again, that's me. So you could definitely reach out to me. Here's my email. You can also contact me by phone. And then the next step here, RJ, I would love to screen share and go to our website to just show what are the current jobs that open, and maybe talk more about the supplemental questions, show the job interest card, and then stop for Q&A. How does that sound?
Perfect. We do have a question in the chat, but I think this is a perfect segue into what you were talking about as far as showing the job board because they're interested in help desk, cybersecurity type opportunities. When do internships usually open or entry-level positions open?
Great. Sounds good. Yeah, so the internships, so those open, the applications open the whole month of March. And so, let me see, oh, I think let me just share my screen here. I think I did pause. Stop here, okay. All right, so let me share with you. All right, so you should be seeing here our webpage for career opportunities. And so you'll see there's 5 positions currently available. On average, it's going to be about 8 on average constantly. And the reason for that is we are going to be expecting a lot of folks to be retiring over the next 5 years. So we're really kind of rapidly trying to increase those openings to make sure we can fill those roles as they come about, as folks get kind of promoted and move up, making sure that we've got a good 5-year plan ahead. But also because the jobs are only online for about a 10-day window. So a lot of other companies, you may see the positions posted for about a month, maybe even 60 days. But the good and bad thing about the agency here is that positions are only posted typically about 10, max 2 weeks, honestly, that I've seen. And the reason for that is because we kind of need to go through the process quickly for interviewing. So once the post comes down, then usually a week later is when the team reviews all the applicants who met the minimum criteria. And then the week following that, our interviews are conducted. And then the highest scoring candidate on the interview is selected. But then comes the background and drug screening process. So the Tollway does leverage the federal screening process, which includes testing for the drug screening and also the background check. So sometimes that takes a while. And so overall, we say the hiring window is about that 30, 45 days. So it's not a quick process. And that's why we really need to kind of only have a little window here of the online open application, because it takes so long to get the person hired that we need to just try to move quickly wherever we can. So you can also use this filter tool. So if you are looking by department, as I kind of went through all of the 17, you could see, as I mentioned, IT is doing a lot right now. There's so much work going on, a lot of different projects. We just hired, I think, 2 project managers. And so a lot of the jobs right now are going to be in IT. So here's another one that's going to be hired. And so when you're looking at the role, so we'll take a look at this, for example, an IT project manager. So you can see the location. So most of them are going to be, this is the Downers Grove office. So we typically don't put remote or hybrid because, again, as I mentioned, you do really need to live decently close to Downers Grove, because you could be asked to come to the office and you have to be able to be there whenever you are asked. Now, again, it depends on your team and how often they come in. And as I mentioned, I know the infrastructure and applications team typically work remotely. But the help desk team is on site Monday to Friday. And that's what the 60515 is. That'll indicate Downers Grove in general. But as far as Monday to Friday, that really varies. So you see definitely that open and closing date. You'll see if it's a union position as well. There's 4 different unions for positions. Pretty much all the IT jobs are union positions. And then all the roles in administration typically are not union. Usually finance and accounting, those are definitely unions. All facilities and fleet will be union roles. So anyway, you could see if it is or not. And then usually there'll be a salary grade. So this one might not have been updated just yet, but you can see the hourly wage as well, typically. So I always recommend that, job seekers, as you're going through, this is basically how our team screens. So we do have to just move forward anyone who meets the minimum required. So if you don't hit the minimum required, it's not preferred, but the required ones, then your application is automatically moved to kind of a non-qualified category. So just make sure that if you see anything on here that's required, just know that that's the first thing that our team looks at. Does this person have at least 1 year of experience in XYZ? And that's what the first screening tool will be. Additionally, you'll see it sometimes in the section here next to it, it's called supplemental questions. And it'll say, this position requires 1 or more years of experience in project management. Please indicate yes or no if you do have this. So anyone who says no, again, those applicants are going to get moved over to the not qualified bucket. So that's pretty much all it is. It's all human reviewed. It's not an ATS, applicant tracking system, computer process. It's one of my coworkers is reviewing each and every application. So if you have questions before you apply, if you're like, Jody, I'm not sure, like I did this in my last job, but does it count as project management? I'm not sure how I could list that. I'm happy to answer those questions for you and give you some tips and advice on what the managers for that team is looking for, if that helps with your application process. And then the benefits package here. So this is pretty much copy and pasted for all of the roles, but you can see more of a specific listing here, which is just like the slide that I shared. All right, so let's look at this one. So again, yes, so the wage is typically shown. Now, yes, this is a huge wage range, right? Between 36 to 65, quite a difference there. And so the reason for that is that typically we'll say if you're looking at around that midpoint, that's typically for any, not just a Tollway, but at companies, if they advertise a wage range and you kind of meet the minimum, then you'd be looking at more of that middle point of what the wage range is. So this position asks for, it's usually based on years of experience. So you have to have a minimum of 3, so then you qualify for kind of the midpoint there. But say you have 6, or if you have 5, then you can definitely be qualified for more of that 65,000. And the great thing with this type of position, or even jobs that don't have the wage listed, is that you can have that conversation with the talent acquisition specialist. Some positions have some wiggle room for negotiation. Others do not, especially if they're union roles. Those are less likely to, because just of the way that any person who enters into that particular union starts out at a particular wage range. There's no negotiation provided at all. But sometimes in areas like this, there could be. So if you see any positions that don't have that listed, then just let me know. I can give you the wage range if it's helpful for you to apply. All right, so here's an example. So there's a senior network engineer position posted. And so you can see here qualifications, so a bachelor's degree and 6 years experience or 10 years of experience. So this is tricky. I had to explain this to a job seeker. So it's either or, meaning 6 years of experience and a bachelor's degree, which we estimate to be 4 years, right? So the 4 plus the 6 that's why it's 10. If you only have the high school diploma, then that's why it's or just high school diploma and 10 years of experience. So the Tollway will value your bachelor's degree in that kind of 4 years experience mindset, like in lieu of. And so we definitely encourage individuals with degrees to apply, but also if you don't have it, doesn't mean you're not qualified. There's hardly any position that I've come across that says you must have a bachelor's degree. The only ones I've seen is kind of at that high leadership level. But for most of the other positions, it's at minimum high school, but then you have to have a lot more years of experience if you don't have the degree. So in this case, you see a lot of other requirements. So that's why when you go here under questions, it'll ask you, and it's a requirement to have the degree or 10 years. Do you have this, yes or no? And then if you say yes, the next step will be, if yes, where was your experience, or something like that. So that's one of these qualifying questions where if anybody says no, you're automatically screened out for this position. All right, so I'll stop there and just pause for any questions if there are any, RJ.
No questions in the chat. If anybody, we did just get a question that came through.
Something about the software team.
Yep. Would you happen to know how big the software team is? I assume that includes the web app and mobile app teams. I'm a recent graduate with a BS in software development. I'm also a full-time fleet manager as well as being a truck driver prior to that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, what a great like depth of experience you have, and it feels like very much aligned with the work being done at the Tollway on the technical side, but also on the fleet side. I don't know how big that team is, unfortunately, but I can tell you that some of these teams are getting newly established. So our chief for that team, the applications team, was hired on, and the chief is like the highest position in a department. And so Matt, he was hired on, I think, December of last year. And so definitely like all these teams are growing, and so I'll probably be right if I say an estimate about maybe 5 to 7 people on each of these teams. Except for help desk, right? Help desk and customer service operations. Those teams they need more than 5 individuals to get all those user accounts and software accounts out there. And the Tollway did leverage heavily consulting agencies, IT firms to really do a lot of those capabilities. So that's why the Tollway employees would be more of like the managers in the IT area. That's why there was smaller teams. But now we're bringing more of that in-house, and so that's why you'll see so many more positions. So we're kind of going a little bit away from the kind of consultant lean and bringing it more in-house to Tollway employees to be able to take on that work function. If that gives you a little bit of insight there on the culture and how it's shifting a little bit, actually. Great question. All right, so let me just share with you the job interest card. The careers page. All right, so if you go to the careers page, so here you'll actually find the internship program information. Again, we already had the deadline, but typically it's open the full month of March. And it was in 9 different teams, actually. 8 different teams here, and then engineering as well had another internship opportunity. And engineering, that's also confusing sometimes. It's more civil mechanical engineering than it is computer. IT actually had 3 interns this year, and they're working in help desk, infrastructure, and applications. Those are the 3 areas they're working in. But regarding that job interest card, so if you kind of scroll down here, you'll see it, job interest card, there is the link. So these are the 70 plus categories I mentioned. So what you want to do is you want to kind of go through and click on the different areas that are of interest to you. Software, maybe on the math side. And then you click subscribe. It has you enter your email first. And then it says go to your email and click the like verification links. You have to go to your email, then click it, and then it'll take you back here. So keep this page open, and it'll say, great, you've been subscribed to the following lists. And then at any point you can update your list as well, but just know that after, you'll get it over 12 months and you have to resubscribe after that. But this is a great tool, and we're really trying to push this hard for job seekers that are more on like the passive side, or say, none of those 5 jobs are of interest to you right now. That's okay. Just wait 8 to 10 days and there'll be new positions posted. But subscribe so that way you get the automatic alert. So we're at the 5:45 mark. That was pretty much all I had to cover today. So I did want to leave time for just general Q&A, RJ. So I'll stop sharing here and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, if anybody does have questions, please feel free to take yourself off mute. Or if you want to post them in the chat, please feel free to do that as well. But if you want to come off mute and ask any questions, please feel free to do so. I did have a question as people are thinking of different things that they might want to ask. But you had talked about applying, going through those applicant tracking systems. Is there anything else, let's say during the interview process, that would really have somebody stand out from from others that also might be going through that interview process?
That's a great question. And so for interviewing, it's a whole different ball game. So we always say your resume gets you through the door and gets you the interview. But from then, it's all about how you interview, right? So your resume just shows us that you have the required qualifications for the role, but the interview tells us, like, can you talk more about those skills as applied to your previous job? It's a combination of situational and behavior-based questions. So that's tell me about a time when you did this, as well as this position requires this type of behavior. If you were in this situation, what would you do? So it's like historical information, what you did, and how would you behave if you were in this situation. The Tollways process is called a kind of CMS process, which again is Central Manager Service, which is all state agencies have this process. So again, you could Google it and you can see, I think there's some webinars as well about it. But it's every question is graded. I believe it's like 0 to 100, graded against a preferred response. So if the question is, tell me about a time when you handled multiple projects, how did that work? What tools did you use, and what was the result? So if you didn't answer any component of that question, then you're automatically scored lower. So just make sure when you're in the interview process, you're really listening to each question, and you are, if you need time to think through it, I've recommended some tips of just repeating the question again, kind of openly, like, okay, great. So a time when I handled multiple projects, like that's just buying yourself time as you're repeating it. So that way you can make sure to hit the nail on the responses, because if you don't, then you're not able to score as high. And that's it. The highest scoring candidate is offered the position. There isn't really a second interview, anything like that. It's just that one interview and done. And it's all virtual too. Right now, we started over COVID, but it's going to continue that way as well. And they're panel style interviews. So you'll see multiple people on the screen. Although they won't be asking you the questions, they will be the one doing the grading of your question and getting those aggregate tallies of who is the highest scoring candidate. That's a great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions that I can help answer now? Or I did send my email in the chat, especially if you did apply. I'm happy to give you that information, where you are in the process. Or before you do apply, you see something you're interested in, please save my contact information. I typically can do a phone call with you before you apply, a Zoom call with you before you apply. Right now, I definitely have the bandwidth to support that. In the summer, as we get closer to the internship, usually around April and May, I'm a little bit more tied up with designing the summer internship. But now is a great time, especially in the fall and winter when the internship's done. I could definitely connect with you at that time. Chris have
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
So, in the past, cybersecurity has always been looked as like a middle level to an advanced level role. With the ever-changing environment that's kind of shifting now with the increase in job and everyone retiring to more opening for entry-level positions, is Illinois Tollway looking to kind of expand that way as well?
Great question. So it's very similar to the applications team, which is the chief was hired not too long ago. And so it is going to be a challenge to find entry-level positions right now at the agency in cybersecurity. Typically, the positions that I've seen so far ask for a minimum of 3 years of experience. So it's going to be not on the entry level. I would say more early to mid-professional level is being sought after right now at the agency in cybersecurity. That may change. We do have an intern going through the program now, but I don't see it as for an individual like a new graduate with no experience in that area. I don't think the agency is kind of at that capability to train and support someone at that level yet. It's a very kind of, all right, here's a project you're working on now, let's get to work type of a role. So it'd be very overwhelming for a new grad in that area to start. So we typically see folks who come from consulting firms, contract positions for a few years, and then they're qualified for those cybersecurity roles that are about 3 years of experience or more.
Gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know if we got to Seth. Was RJ that Seth's hands up?
So I think that might have been from earlier. Seth, did you have another question?
No. I was the one who asked the question about the follow-up thing
Perfect.
that I was planning. But I sent her an email though.
Oh,
I
yes.
told you an
Oh,
email.
that's right. Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, first, Jody, thank you for jumping on and sharing all this fantastic information and connecting with our WGU populations. Just a reminder to everyone, this was recorded, so we will send that recording out tomorrow. But thank you, everyone, for jumping on this evening to learn a little bit more about the Illinois Tollway. And thank you again, Jody, for jumping on and presenting this evening.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to
Absolutely.
have this opportunity to connect with you all.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a great rest of the night, and then you should get that email sometime tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.